Sutton Leadership Show, lighting the way with real leaders, real stories, and real impacts. Because when leaders stop growing, the darkness wins. All right, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. Today's show features Adam Reynolds. For over 12 years, Adam Reynolds has provided fractional CFO services to help business owners thrive and live their best lives. Adam has a proven process that helps owners proactively plan so they can make confident decisions which lead to real results. In the past 12 months alone, Adam has helped owners capture over $2 million in additional profits that they didn't have before. When he isn't helping owners thrive, Adam can be found down at Lake Cumberland trying to improve his golf handicap and hanging out with friends and family. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Adam.
Hey, Drew, thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. It's exciting to have you on the show. I am an engineer, which is like a cousin to CFOs. Like we both like math and we're both interested in like finding ways for the system works out. But I feel like CFOs get a bad rap. I think that there's kind of like a librarian stereotype. But you're into golf. Do you fall into that stereotype, or how do you react to that kind of opinion of controllers or CFOs?
You know, it's funny. Somebody reached out to me the other day and they said, "Hey, I'd love to connect, but I actually hate accounting and I hate numbers." And I was like, here's a little secret. I hate accounting too. And that's why I got into the CFO space. Yes, you need good accounting, you need good data, but it's all about what you do with it. I don't want to sit there and crunch numbers. I want to help people use data so that they can grow and thrive. That's a completely different skill set, completely different mindset. So I don't blame people when they shy away from numbers altogether.
No, I love that because first of all, to be in business is to be a little bit obsessed with profit. Like if you're not in business to make money, it's called a hobby, and your employees aren't going to like it and your spouse isn't going to like it. To be in business is to make money, but it's about providing value to others. And in the money-making space, some people watch money, some people account for money, some people just keep the books. Like my wife is a bookkeeper. She does not like tax planning. She does not like finance. Like, how do I structure this bank deal or whatever? Doesn't like that. She likes balancing two columns, and praise the Lord for her, because that is the part that I hate. But I think we're both max minners. That's a phrase from board gaming. Did you ever get into board gaming or any sort of statistics that has to do with games when you were younger? No,
not at all.
Just golf handicaps.
Well, I was always competitive. I didn't study in the statistics, but I hated losing. So at least I was competitive from that standpoint. So maybe that's why I'm here too.
Oh, that's funny. Well, you said you go down to Lake Cumberland and you have a pretty good golf game. What's your current golf handicap?
Oh, I didn't say it was a good handicap. It's very bad. I'm just trying to improve it. My goal is to consistently be in the 90s. Every now and then I get in the hundreds. If it wasn't for being outside, having a nice beverage, and just enjoying the great weather, I don't know if I would actually golf as much as I do.
That's funny. I grew up in Boy Scouts, and so I was hiking all the time, and I did not appreciate golf until about a decade ago. And then I moved to Texas, and in Texas, everything's brown.
Mm-hmm.
Texas people will tell you, they're like, no, that's green grass. Those are green trees. First of all, they're painted. And second of all, it's not exactly like it is here in the West or in the Midwest. All right. So you play golf. Do you have family?
Yeah. So I have a wife who's also a business owner. She owns a dance studio here locally in Northern Kentucky. Our daughter just turned 1 and we have a second baby on the way.
Well, congrats. Whoa. That's almost Irish twins there. That's
just missed it. Yeah, just missed it.
We have twins, and everybody. I make it a policy to always tell everybody the truth on everything except for twins. And people are like, "Is it as bad as everybody says?" And I say, "No, it's totally easy." And then the twins come out, and they're like, "You lied to me." I'm like, "If you want to know, you didn't want to know."
You're never ready or prepared anyway. Just roll with it, right?
That's right. Well, congratulations on the kiddos. So Thrive CEO, let'sthriveceo.com, I think, is your website here. Let's Thrive CFO. Why should I call you? First, I guess, why should I call you? And then I'm going to ask about what a fractional CFO is.
Yeah, it's funny because nobody that I know is sitting there raising their hand saying, "Hey, I need a fractional CFO." Most people don't even know what that is. But what you hear often is, "I need more from my bookkeeper. I need more from my accountant. I need more from my CPA." And people just don't know what that more is most of the time. But it's from a fractional CFO standpoint, it's about how do we drive strategy using financial data? How do we build confident and achievable plans to grow and scale? It's not just, hey, I want to grow 10%. What does that really mean? What does it actually take to get there? What decision points do we have along the way? What opportunities? What challenges? When do I need to hire? When do I need to invest? These are all core problems that people deal with every single day. And your traditional accountant or CPA isn't going to work with you on that because they're focused on compliance.
I'm going to double down on that. I have several friends who are CPAs. In fact, I get a decent amount of referrals from CPAs. And oftentimes people go to their CPA and they say, listen, I'm a mechanic, I'm a lawnmower, I'm a landscape person. I have a small business. What do I need to do here? Should I fire Sally? And they're asking manpower questions or strategic questions from their CPA. And while the CPA does know their numbers, the CPA is not in the business of giving you business advice. They're in the business of giving you tax advice. And so having a CFO is super valuable. What was the moment when you said, you know what, I want to be a CFO. I don't want to do whatever it is that I'm doing now. Was it in college? Was it after college? Was it like at a corporate job? When did you decide to be a CFO?
It was actually in my first job. I started as an intern, grew into a full-time role, and I was just doing accounting and tax work. Got my CPA license just because that was the thing to do. It added some credibility to my role. And I just hated that work. It was the same stuff over and over again. There was no real impact. And as you mentioned, for tax work, people are all about how do I save money? But saving money on your taxes isn't always the best thing, because to generate long-term wealth, you have to pay taxes, which means you have to make profit to be able to do that. And that's going to help you invest and grow in your personal life as well. So that's where all the real impacts come from. And I was fortunate that I worked with my old firm to kind of build out what a fractional CFO offering would look like when that wasn't even really a thing. And we started seeing great results in the people that we worked with. And some of those stories early on really just stuck to me. And I realized that this was the right thing that I wanted to do forever.
I love the idea of a fractional C-suite position. I actually I offer a fractional COO position. Sometimes you might call that an executive vice president, which would probably hold marketing and sales and as well as a little bit of operations. What I like about fractional work is that I'm able to provide my services at literally a fraction of the cost of what a C-suite person is a couple $100,000 position. Mm-hmm. But the truth is, and if the C people that I know, the executives that I know, you're not a C person the entire time. A lot of times you're just going to meetings, you're doing morale, you're doing leadership, but you're not doing the C work. And so for a small business, having a fractional C position, CFO, CEO, COO, CIO, gives you the ability to have essentially what a Fortune 500 company has, except just the amount that you need, right? You don't have to buy a whole person to get the whole job done. I think it's pretty cool. Who's your favorite client story? Now, again, you can change the names to protect the guilty here, but can you give me a favorite client story?
I really think it's the first one, just because you always remember your first, they say, right? And it really helped me come up with the name Thrive CFO. It was a general contractor. They're about $8 million in revenue, and they were losing $250,000 January through June. So just halfway through the year, and they had no idea they were losing money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And their CPA put together a budget, but it was very, very basic, and they were focused on top line revenue. I always say that in golf, the drives for show, putts for dough. Well, This is where they were focused on just top line revenue and didn't really care about the profits. And they didn't realize that at those revenue levels, the way they were bidding out their projects, they were losing money. So they said, we have to fix this. We're going to hit a wall. We only have 6-7 months of cash flow, and we're going to be out of business, because while we're getting paid in advance, we're going to have to pay the piper at some point. We really helped them focus in on their forecasting, what type of projects to take on, which ones actually were profitable, made them money, what their project mix is long term. They got to break even by the end of the year, made $250,000 the next year, $500,000, kept doubling, grew to the spot where they had to hire somebody in-house to be their real-time, full-time CFO. But along the way, the two owners paid off all their personal debt, credit cards, student loans. They started paying their team members at the top of the marketplace. They started offering health benefits that they never offered before, and they started offering a 6% 401k match. So not only did we help the business owners thrive, we helped their entire team thrive. And I randomly ran into the owner at a restaurant probably a few months back. Last year, they did 55 million in revenue. Can you imagine how many more lives you're impacting from that standpoint when they would have most likely gone out of business otherwise?
Yeah. Man, there's so many fun things about that story. I love that you point out, you glanced over this, but this is something that I articulate hard with my new clients, is that you got into business for freedom, not to make money. You got into business to thrive, is the way that you're saying it. And you can hustle. You can be making that 55 million, let's say, which they were not making when they first started with you. You can get in there and all of that money is not going to your pocket. It's going to something in the business that's not oriented correctly. It's going to wasted marketing efforts or wasted products. Or you could be making 25 million and the same profit as a $50 million company. Learning how to get that capital really spinning in line that's when you start getting freedom. I love that. I mean, it's so exciting because within a year, they had already easily paid for your services. And then year after year, they started just taking off. That's exciting.
That's what I always try to do is say, give me 90 days. We're going to build out new financial tools. We're going to build out a plan you can be confident in. And for whatever reason, if you're not confident, cancel right then and there. I'm going to prove the value in 90 days. And that's how I try and reduce the risk for people because, again, they don't know what a fractional CFO is. Yep. But if I do my job well, which luckily I do, then we can drive value pretty quickly.
So I'm a big proponent that while every business, whether it's a solopreneur or a $55 million enterprise, every business basically needs all the same functions. But there comes a point in which, like when you're starting out, you just got to sell. You just got to call your friends and family. You got to call your BNI network. You just got to sell. But then there hits a spot where you actually need some of that strategic management thought. You have the cash to do it. You are burning $250,000 between June and August. What size company should reach out to you to start getting this sort of advice?
I think you have to be at least $1 million in revenue. You know, you've got a proven concept. You've kind of done the founder-led sales approach that you just mentioned. You got enough momentum where things are starting to break and you can't really scale past what you can do on your own. And it's time to figure out what processes, systems, support do I need around me to take it to that next level. There are a few times where maybe somebody around $750,000 could be primed and ready, but a fractional CFO is an investment, and we got to make sure that you can get that return on your investment, right? So that's where I usually say $1 million at least, and that can go up to 10 to 20 million depending on the type of business. But at some point, you're going to need to hire in-house.
No, I like that. So at 10 to 20 million people, that's a lot of people. At 10 to $20 million, that's probably 200 people. Is that, what do you think? Maybe 100?
Completely depends on the business. It's a wide range. Yeah. But yeah, you're looking at hundreds of people at that point.
Yeah, hundreds of people. So if you find somebody that's at, like, say, that's 100 people, do you have any clients that are kind of in that range? And what sort of advice is kind of unique for them?
You know, it's funny. Everybody likes to think they're unique, and I'm sure you are in some way or another. But I'm working with a client right now. There's 100. They have 188 employees. They're 16 million. They're just getting to the point where they're going to outgrow me, and I'm just helping them get to that point, which is great. But their problems are just bigger number problems. They're the same issues that $1 million companies are having. They're just on a bigger scale, right? So while each business works a little bit differently, they have their different value driver from a financial standpoint. There's so many themes that are just consistent all across, no matter what kind of company you have.
I find that the same. Again, I do a lot of leadership coaching, which is like, how do you get the culture healthy, and a lot of operational culture, because you start off with operations coaching and then you go to leadership, or you start off with leadership and you got to do operations. I just offer both services because it makes a lot of sense. But so many companies are just the same. I have a personal question. This is something that I do that kind of people look at me weird for, but I'm curious for your thoughts on it. I refer, when I help them hire somebody, to buying an employee. I'm like, well, if you buy a lathe operator, they cost this much and they make this much money. As a CFO, how do you look at employees? Do you consider them like you're just kind of buying a widget, or is it a more personal approach? How do you see employees? It's
really more of an investment, and what's that return on investment? We do a lot of forecasting. We want to make sure that's going to be the right fit long term. Make sure that you have the long term pipeline to support that hire, just because you don't want to hire somebody and then have to let them go in the next few months. They got to be the right culture fit. One bad hire, especially in a management position, can really start to tank things. I've seen that, unfortunately. You don't want that to happen. So it's much more. There's the financial aspect, there's the culture aspect, there's the long-term strategic growth aspect, especially when you think about how does the owner get out of the day-to-day? How does this person help raise and lift everybody else on the management team to allow that to happen? There's so many factors that go into that.
So I'm going to pull us off topic here. This is the Drew Sutton Leadership Show, so it's on topic for me. Who is the best leader that you've had? You don't have to, again, change the names to protect the guilty here, but who's the best leader that you had, and why do you think that they were one of the best leaders that you've seen?
Oh, that's a loaded question, and one I wasn't ready for. So good question.
Oh, sorry about that.
I had a client that was the owner of a marketing agency, and he did the solopreneur thing for a while, kind of topped out at 500, 600K in revenue and got stuck. And I think he quickly realized that he can't do it alone.
Yeah.
And so he brought in us to do fractional CFO work. He also brought in his sister, who was just fantastic at operations, because he was more of the sales side, and he needed somebody to keep things running while he helped scale the business. So he knew where his weak spots were. And all along the way, he paid his people at the top of the marketplace, took care of them, because he understood that if people left, then it was going to impact his business. But working with us, we helped him understand how to afford that. And he knew how to have fun along the way. And he knew when data would challenge him, it wasn't an attack on him. It was just a different way of thinking and looking at things on how to get better.
I love it. I'm actually going to go back and look at this segment and think about it. That guy sounds like an amazing guy to work for.
Oh, they have so much fun, and he's a great person. He's pretty well known in the area, and he's just a great guy now.
That is cool. All right. Well, we made a promise to the folks that are watching the show here. If this is how to fix your low profit margins and 3 proven ways to triple your profits. So let's start with step number 1. What is one proven way to triple your profits?
Well, step 1 isn't the most fun one. It's not the most sexy one by any means, but this is a crazy stat. I can't believe this. Just from personal experience, 90% of business owners have bad data. Just because you have a bookkeeper, you have a CPA, doesn't mean that the data that you have is accurate. You're probably not getting the data timely. You're not using the data that you would. So having someone that can, 1, give you accurate and timely financial statements, but 2, surround you with the right tools. That's, key trending metrics. That's a forecast. That's an annual budget or a plan that actually matters. To grow and scale, you need more than just, here's what happened this month compared to last month. You can't change your financial data because it already happened. You're either going to be happy you made money or sad you lost money. You can't change that. But if you combine it with the right amount of tools, you can really grow and scale the right way. So the first one is just having good data and systems around you.
I love it. Having good data. Now, if I'm a $5-ish million company, and maybe I'm picking a random spot kind of in your product line, how much should I be spending on tools to get that data? Is it okay to spend a couple $1,000s a month, or is this a $10,000 a month fee? How much should I expect to spend to have good data?
Yeah, it varies. From the CFO standpoint, I'm an open book. My pricing, depending on the size of the company, is anywhere from $2,500 to $3,500 a month. And if you're going to add accounting and tax work into that, because those are necessary evils, people spend probably $50K to $75K on average with me when we do everything for them at that size.
That makes sense. But again, you got to place that against the $250,000 you're going to be spending on a proper CFO, right?
Correct.
Some people would say, well, you're only going to spend a couple, 150 to 180 on it, but there's bonuses and there's things that get
and then you still got payroll taxes, benefits. You got to pay the bookkeeper, because ideally your CFO isn't spending time doing the accounting. There's so many things that play into it.
Yeah. So step 1, all right, I'm going to buy a couple of processes, and I'm going to start getting good data, and I'm going to start hiring somebody within my team to feed that good data into a report structure. All right, what's the next thing I need to start working on?
Step 2 is a clear planning process. So right now, there are so many business owners out there that say, hey, I want to grow 10% year over year. I just had a new client on board, and they said that. And I said, well, how are you going to do that? They said, I don't know. It just sounds like a good number. So a clear planning process, there's probably hundreds of ways that business owners can grow and scale their business. And I think that's the problem is where do you even get started? And
Right.
I think every business owner needs to look at 4 buckets. How do I get new clients? How do I get them to spend more frequently? How do I
Yep.
get them to spend more each time they work with me? And how do I
Yep.
get more efficient? If you got your leadership team, or if you're just an owner and you kind of listed out everything there and you rank those ideas based on what's going to drive the best impact on the bottom line, not top line, but bottom line, and what's the easiest thing to implement, you should only walk away with 1 to 3 things at the end of the day that if you focus on it can dramatically change your profit. And that's what I mean by clear. You do that work up front, build your plan around those 1 to 3 things of here's what it actually takes, and that's all you focus on, you're going to change your profitability dramatically.
So do you have any stories of clients in your head that have done this recently? They've gotten really clear that I'm going to grow my company by X by doing this 1 or 2 activities. And then how fast that, because I know for my clients that can turn around pretty crazy. Like if you start advertising to the right ideal client, all of a sudden it starts to pick up quick. So for you, what's been your experience when you have this conversation and folks start obeying it? How fast can they see results? Again, this is former success does not indicate future profits, blah, blah, blah. But disclaimer aside, tell me some stories.
Yeah. I would say somewhere in the 6-12 month range. I mean, it just depends on how low hanging are the fruits, and you have to be committed. Just because you work with us doesn't mean that I'm going to magically flip a light switch and things are going to start working. So there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and some things take a little bit longer. But in another example, I worked with an entertainment company, and they had people that would come and do go-karting, axe throwing, all kinds of different activities just for fun. And they were struggling financially. And we took them through this planning process, and they thought the top 3 things that they identified would help them maybe generate an extra 150, 200K of profit. And they needed every dollar to grow and scale.
Right.
They're about $2 million in revenue. So every dollar, especially at that amount, was huge.
Yeah.
They walked away knowing that most people came to see them once a year. So let's look at pricing, because if they're only going to come see you once a year, they're not going to know the difference, even if you just raise it $1 here, $2 there, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
In that same idea, if you bundled the activities and said, you know what, we already had the staff to place. What if we heavily discounted your second, third activities because they're only here once anyway, and if we get them to spend more while they're here, then that's a win. And then lastly, being in that environment, it's very unpredictable from a revenue standpoint. So to kind of add a layer of predictability or consistency, they focused on group sales. How do we get companies doing leadership building exercises out there? How do we just get people doing all kinds of group events, holiday parties, whatever? Those 3 things ended up generating $400,000 of profit, and they continue to grow, scale, and open up multiple locations.
Yeah. And so that, so in that conversation, because I want to get folks to get a feel for what it's like to work with you. In that conversation, how does the CFO work? And then how does the team work with the innovation to come up with the new ideas?
Yeah. So I lead a workshop it was about 6 people in that workshop where we brainstorm through those 4 ideas: get new customers, get them to spend more frequently, and get efficient. We came up with 52 ideas that we thought we could implement. And the idea is no idea is a bad idea at that point. We judge it later. And some of the ideas that I even came up with were not great ideas. Disclaimer, I'm not it's funny. You're an expert at your area. I'm an expert at my area. Let's bring those wisdoms together. And that's where the power lies. Right. So
Yeah.
we sort rank filtered those, and we got down to the top 10. And I said, okay, this is where we're going to roll up our sleeves. Let's say, what kind of revenue can we expect? And we're using a lot of data on how many people are coming, what's the average spend. I mean, there's a lot of good financial data we need to project that out and have a good conversation. And what does it cost to implement? What do we need to hire? Is there technology we need to implement? Different things like that. And it was clear that those 1 to 3 things we thought could generate a couple $100,000, they did well more than that. So even when you're conservative in your estimates there's still a ton of potential in just focusing on the key 1 to 3 things. And that's my role, is how do we keep you focused on that?
Yeah. I have a friend of mine that said to me this about 5 years ago, and I just have loved it ever since, which is you can't see the label when you're inside the bottle. So sometimes, you're into axe throwing and go-karts, and that's like all you can think about. You're like, this is how we make money. I need to sell twice as many of these, and you feel stuck. But if you just rethink it, if you have somebody help you get out of the bottle and kind of see the label from the outside, you're like, oh, wait a minute. There's a lot of things that we can do here. I love that. I love it. All right, cool. So that is the first one was um, all
Good
right, what
data
was
and systems.
getting good data, and then the
Yep.
second one was getting really clear on what you're going to do to grow. And what is our third one?
Starting with the end in mind. I think
Ooh,
too often business owners again look at here's what happened compared to last year, and you're either happy or you're not. And there's a stat out there. I'm a certified exit planning advisor. So the Exit Planning
okay.
Institute says 75% of business owners regret selling their business after the sale. That could be they didn't get the value that they needed to live financially healthy.
Yeah.
They didn't plan for what am I going to do when I don't have this job to do anymore, right? Or this company to run. And I always like to say, after the first year, we're going to generate some additional profit. We're going to have new opportunities. But what I really want you to do is start to partner with a personal financial planner because you need to understand this business is your biggest asset and it's going to dictate the rest of your life. And we need to know what our North Star is to build towards. And that's where good CFO planning really comes into play. Because if you say the business is worth X today, but it needs to be way up here, well, we need to figure out our path to get there so that you can achieve all of your personal financial goals.
That I also, and because again, I do the operational side of things normally. But yeah, you and I are in the business of helping owners with their life planning. It's maybe the most intimate relationship you can have besides your business partner and your spouse. I mean, you're up there with the banker and the doctor and the lawyer. We know what your goals are, and helping you plan to get there is the real. I can't tell you. There's been a number of clients that have exposed some very personal truths to me that they have not told anybody else. I won't embarrass anybody, so I'm not going to bring them up here. But yeah, it's a very cool role to have in people's lives.
And I think there's a study out there that says the CPA is the most trusted relationship out of all of those professional services and partnerships that you can have. And that's
Yeah.
where I go back to the idea of people need more from their CPA, but that's where they go to, and that's where they think everything lives. And it really lives at the fractional CFO level.
Yeah. No, this has been fun for me. I've known what CFOs have done. I've had CFO peers, but our overlap is a lot. I tend more towards the leadership messaging and strategy side of things, but your side is the strategy and the hard number side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very cool. Okay, so we can get good data. Maybe that means buying a new system. We can do a workshop with someone like you, have a strategic offsite, and really figure out what we need to do. And then we can start thinking about life and how this all really needs to be organized. What's your favorite story of somebody that has exited a business successfully? And then follow up, where is somebody that has exited and they kind of were surprised by what they ended up with?
I have a couple of those. So we'll start with the fun one. We were working with a company for a while, and they started off about 7 million in revenue. It was a pest control company, and we helped them identify, again, the 1 to 3 things to help them grow and scale. They took it, they ran with it, they executed great. It was a great leadership team, so that helped tremendously. Just great leaders all around, and we still helped them with the accounting, having good data, making sure that all the I's were dotted, T's were crossed, things were in order, and they had a great personal financial planner. So everything was working from our standpoint. They went to sell to a big national pest control company. And what normally happens is pest control companies come in and say, we're going to offer you this just to get the conversation started, get the LOI. And they always expect to find a mess and that you're anywhere near that, right?
Yes.
And this company was actually well worth that and then some. And the national company was like, we actually didn't expect this. And so would you be willing to accept this? We have no logic or reason, but can we offer you this lower amount because we can't really afford this other amount? And it worked out from their personal plan. It was still way more than they ever thought they would get. So it all worked out anyway. But I think that the owner ended up buying an airplane. And how expensive those things are. It's crazy. So they lived their best life for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to riff on that for a second. There's going to be like $70 trillion in transfer between the baby boomers and the Gen Xers. I think it might skip the millennials, honestly. Maybe the millennials, certainly between the millennials and the Gen Zers. I think the Gen Xers may be skipped. So what are some things that you can do to increase your multiple? I think for everybody that's watching the show, they understand this idea, but if I'm a HVAC company, there's a standard multiple that PE firms are going to offer me. Sometimes it's off of my revenue, sometimes it's off of my profits, sometimes it's off of a combination of things, but there's kind of a standard multiple of, we'll just say, of my revenue that they're going to offer me. Some companies get like 8x, some companies get say 5 or 4x, and some companies get 2x. So it's a massive amount of value for you to get your business put together. What are some advices for those folks that are seeing that transition?
3 simple things everybody can do. 1, have good data. Again,
good data.
That way people don't question. If they find one thing wrong, they're going to assume there's so many other things that are wrong. You have to have good data.
Yep.
2, what's your recurring revenue? Even if you're in a business where it's really hard to get recurring revenue, that adds so much more predictability. You have to figure out, how do I generate some predictable revenue in this business so that somebody else can count on that and say, yep, that's cash flow I can expect when I buy the business. And then the last thing, which if somebody's just buying the revenue book business, this doesn't matter as much, but if you're selling to an owner operator, how do you get out of the business so that the business doesn't rely on you? How do you have a team that can run this without your day-to-day involvement? Those are 3 things everybody should be thinking about.
Yep. And that last piece is specifically what I help people that are exiting figure out, is how do we make this business run by itself? I was actually literally working on a set of ads this morning that are basically the idea of, when was the last time you took a worry-free vacation, right? Can you run this business without you? Can your son or daughter run the business when you leave? There's a big, in addition to the wealth transfer that's going to occur, there's a lot of inheritance that's going to happen where the kids are supposed to take over the business, but can they run it like you can? Did you set them up for success? That's a very cool question, but it sounds like that's one of the services that you help with, is an exit planning conversation. It's
all included in the CFO side, but we have to make sure you have other good advisors to help you think through the value as well.
Yeah. All right, cool. So you work with companies between $1 million and $50 million. You help folks figure out how to find good data, how to organize their business model so that they can make money they weren't expecting, and how to plan the exit. Is there anything else that they get from you, just as a fun bonus?
I don't know if it's a fun bonus, but we do accounting and tax work as well. But I think the level of added support that adds in, we only do that for CFO clients. We want to be everything for the right person, not anything to anybody, so we don't compete on that.
Love it.
But you have to be sure that your tax decisions align with your business decisions. If we're doing the accounting, we make sure we have good data and have the data that we need. So it just makes it easier to have the right conversations at the right time. But really, it all leads up to that CFO work that lets you drive the best value at the best time.
I love it. Well, we are kind of running out of time on the show here. I'm going to give you the next 3 minutes. Floor is yours. Just kind of talk to the audience and tell them what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I just love helping people. I'm a big believer that if you haven't had a conversation like this, you should. Even if it's just to learn, even if I'm not the right fit, there are other great fractional CFOs out there. I'm not going to be the best fit for everybody, but you should arm yourself with some knowledge around what a fractional CFO does. And I'm an open book in terms of what you can expect, what you should expect, what questions you should ask other providers, just because business owners are an underserved population, because they are only getting the normal bookkeeping, the normal accounting, the normal tax work, and that's simply not enough to get you to where you want to go. So what I like to offer people is kind of a free mini strategic planning session. So you'll see my calendar link here. What I'll help you walk through is, here's where I am today in my business. Here's where I want to be in 3 years. And here's what my epic or dream business really looks like. What are all the challenges, decisions, opportunities along the way to get there, so that when it's time to hire a fractional CFO, you know what you need to expect from there. Or even if you want to try to self-implement and grow and scale on your own, you know what things you need to be aware of. So just having that vision or that plan in place sounds so simple, but it's so powerful.
I love it. Well, for those that have been listening, Adam, you can find Adam here at calendly.com/Adam Let's Thrive CFO, or at his website, letsthrivecfo.com. Adam has been a little bit modest here. If you don't have a CFO, if you haven't thought about this conversation, if you've gone to your CPA and you've asked business questions and your CPA has awkwardly given you hey, that's not my job, Adam might be the right person for you. In fact, I'm going to tell you, Adam is the right person for you. give Adam a call. Tell him you saw him on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show here. He's going to help you find the right data, get the right systems in your company to get that good data, make sure that your business is operating so that you are crystal clear on how you're growing it so that you can exit it properly. So if that fits you, if you're between that $1 and $50 million range and you said, you know what, it's time to get a CFO, but I don't want to spend $300,000 on it. I'd rather spend $50,000 and get the same amount of service. Give Adam a call. Tell him you saw him on the Drew Sutton Leadership Show. And with that, we are